Great.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today for our OverDrive training with the famous Nick Kopera, who is our resident trainer for OverDrive and our account representative. This is one of the training sessions that are provided by eBuckles as part of the strategic plan. And with that, I will turn it over to Nick.
Thanks, Tina. So, yeah, thanks for joining. I'm going to go through a variety of kind of basic topics, ranging from shopping to reporting, making sure you're aware of how to change kind of your preferences and settings in Marketplace, how to place support tickets, how to utilize all the great things that we have on our resource center. So kind of a broad variety of topics. So going to share my screen here, and this is just Tina's Libraries Advantage account, just for an example. Can everybody see this Marketplace screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we're going to start with a basic search. So if you know exactly what you're kind of looking for as you're shopping here, author name or a title, you can search for it right in the basic search bar. You can either press enter, it's going to go right to that kind of the broader search, or if there's a hyperlink here, this will actually take you right to that title if you do know exactly what you're kind of looking for. So 1 second for me. Hopefully not making updates today while I'm doing this. But you can utilize that for series, author, title, anything like that. So you can see that I'm seeing both formats here, audiobook and ebook, for the results for that search. If you want to get a little bit more granular with what you're doing as far as searching for a title, author, subject, that sort of thing, you can utilize the advanced search. So this button up here will take you into the advanced search tool, where you're going to see a lot more options as far as narrowing down the results. So if I wanted to kind of look at some historical fiction but exclude any romance, I can do that. Maybe I'm looking for a specific price range and I don't want to spend any more than $49.99, and maybe I would kind of like to stick to the one copy, one user lending model, which we'll go over here in a second. So I can enter that here as well. If I hit search, this is going to take me to probably a large list of content. There's a lot of titles in Marketplace. So there's 78,000 plus results meeting those criteria that I entered there. The nice thing about the advanced search is it's going to include these kind of sticky filters over here. You'll notice these X's. If I wanted to remove one, and I can do that right from the side panel here. And then if I wanted to narrow it down even further, let's say, making sure I'm not getting anything that's already in the Buckles collection, and maybe I'm wanting to focus on audiobooks right now. Eventually, I'll be able to apply those additional filters, and it'll kind of narrow down my list results a little bit more. So you can see that kind of shrunk that list quite a bit. So I'm still seeing just that OCOU lending model, as well as audiobooks. And I added a couple more filters up here, which are still present. And if I wanted to remove any of those, I can here. So always going to tell me how many filters I've applied, and then I can see those checked off on the left-hand side here. So most of the filters that you saw in the, I believe all of them actually now have been added here, are going to be present here, as well as that advanced search. So if you forget to do something while you're doing that advanced search, not the end of the world, you can always add it on the left-hand side afterwards. So quick overview of lending models you'll see here. The main area of Marketplace currently is devoted to the two main lending models that publishers will offer, and that's one copy, one user, and metered access. Both of these are technically only available to one copy or to one user at a time in terms of individual copies. But the difference between the two is that a metered access copy is going to expire after a period of time or a number of checkouts. And then we do have a few that are a combination of both. So for example, earlier of 54 checkouts, or excuse me, earlier 52 checkouts or 52 weeks, 2 years, that sort of thing. And you're not going to see a ton of that. More recently, it's becoming by time. We do have several publishers that do a 26 checkout lending model as well. You can see ownership details here on this grid if a title's already been purchased. So this one isn't in the Advantage collection. That's why this is showing up here. So this Advantage line, because I'm in the Glenridge Advantage account, is going to indicate just data for my library. So one Glenridge patron has checked this title out in the last year versus 24 for the group as a whole. So you can see other ownership data here for the group. So the 6 indicates that there's 6 Advantage libraries that have shared that title. And if I click on that hyperlink, I can actually see who shared it, how many copies, and then when they shared it. So kind of nice if you're shopping and kind of being conscious of what's already owned. And then you can see the hold and checkout information as well here. So if I click on active holds, this is actually going to take me into the current holds detail report where I can see which branches or libraries have holds on this title and then when they were placed. So basic and advanced search, two kind of main ways to start shopping. So let's say, I wanted to add titles to a brand new cart. You'll notice this one says main cart, and that's because Tina already has something pinned here. But if I wanted to start a new one, I can click this arrow here, create a new cart, and then name the cart. I always recommend pinning the cart that you're working on as the main cart, like Tina had that June one. So if I hit create here, you notice this has been added to this demo cart here. It's keeping track of how many copies and the total cost. So if I were to, add another title like this one, man, I didn't even know this was based on a book. This is kind of a nice one to use as an example for lending models as well. So this is grayed out because I need to make a choice here in terms of this lending model. You will see some audiobook publishers especially give you a choice between one copy, one user copy, and then metered access concurrent use copy. So this is 100 checkouts that can be used at the same time. So multiple patrons can have that particular copy checked out, and that's the price right there for the 100 checkouts. So this one won't expire after a period of time. It'll actually expire after those 100 checkouts are used. So you do have that choice to make. So if I wanted to, get this lending model, it's telling me here that one copy equals 100 checkouts, and then I can add that to my main cart. It's going to reflect that in the total and then the copy count. Just going to delete this cart.
And just this is my public service announcement, is that those 100 checkouts are shared checkouts and not checkouts for your Advantage library.
Correct.
Every time we talk about the metered access and the various models, I'm always like, those are shared.
Yep, that is metered access titles, OCOU are all shared. Cost per circ is not shared, which I think, Tina, are you still doing training on cost per circ from time to time?
Yes, we are. Stay tuned for more information about that from Darlene.
So went through basic and advanced search. The other nice thing about kind of the main area or landing page of Marketplace as far as shopping goes is all these must-haves and discover lists. So if you're somebody that just kind of wants the most popular stuff, you don't need to necessarily use an advanced search. You can kind of take a look at what our staff librarian. So Tina mentioned Alicia, her team creates all these lists every week, constantly being updated. So if I wanted to just look at adult bestsellers from the New York Times, for instance, really easy to just kind of click on that, get a quick shopping list, and then go from there if I'm just looking to add, the latest and greatest to my Advantage account. So there's going to be a lot of topics in here, not just kind of the bestseller list, but every month we have sales. So those will be linked up top. There are kind of different topical lists that the librarians will create. You know, as you can kind of see down here, not just, you know, your typical lists. But then you do have some nice things here as well. So if I wanted to say, you know, what's missing from the collection, maybe I'm looking to beef up YA right now, and I'm looking at fiction specifically. That's another way to kind of drill down into the catalog without, you know, doing too much work in the advanced search. So that'll bring up, you know, another list in the same kind of format that we're used to seeing with those filters on the left-hand side, and then your cart view over here. So nice option if, you know, you're not sure what you're looking for. Easy way to get started over here. And then I'll go through what this notify me tags has to do in a little bit later. So went through creating and pinning carts using those additional filters while shopping. So there's a dedicated section for the reporting functions in Marketplace, and that's the Insights tab. So when we click on that tab, you're going to kind of see this landing page. The summary up here will indicate the data for the consortium as a whole. This holding section, however, can provide you some data. I think I did a training towards the end of last year on using this for state reporting. But real quick, just kind of a quick high level overview. If I click on this pencil, I can change this date here and then kind of take a look at, you know, how many titles were specific to my Advantage collection at that time, or if I wanted to see what was in the, you know, the full Buckle shared collection, I can utilize that section. Again, this will give you a kind of a snapshot, high level of the consortium stats as far as what's going on with the activity there at the bottom too. Patron interest dashboard, I'll get to in a second when we cover the purchasing tools and notify me tags. This trends will just give you kind of some high level, again, graphs that are looking at the consortium as a whole as far as checkouts, holds, user data. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the most popular reports. So these first three were the ones that are kind of the most commonly used. Those are what I'm going to go through today. With the checkouts report, probably the most common one you're going to use. This clicking on that report will automatically open up the last search parameters that you used in this report. I think I just mentioned this to Tina on a call the other day. We just implemented this new update to these report filters. You used to have to deselect any kind of option that you had in here, but if I do reset all filters, you'll notice everything gets put back to the default. So if I'm looking at the report options, the top filter is always going to dictate how the report is presented to me in terms of the results. So if I wanted to see, you know, let's say a month by month breakdown for 2023, I would, instead of doing checkouts by branch, which is going to show me a library by library breakdown, I'm going to change this to month. And then, you know, maybe I want to see specific dates for all of 2023. So I can put in dates in here. I'm typing, but then you see that calendar icon there that you can utilize as well if you wanted to choose dates as well. So I'm doing 2023 as a whole. These advantage checkout filters, I typically recommend using the top one, and then you can kind of filter the results from there. This will include checkouts regardless of who bought the particular copy that the patron checked out. So owned, bought, it'll include both shared and advantage copies as well as advantage shared. This option is a little confusing because this is going to show all checkouts no matter who the user is, but they would be only showing checkouts that your personal Advantage account owns. So it could show copies from other Advantage account on titles that you own as well. So that's why with this one, you're kind of getting the full spectrum, and you can kind of narrow down the results that way. This one will show you just your checkouts on titles that are owned in your Advantage account, but again, that could include copies of the same titles that are owned by other libraries or purchased by other libraries. So recommendation, top one, and then kind of narrow the results down from there. If I click update, I'm going to get the data in that month by month format here. And then each one of these is going to be a hyperlink. So if I wanted to take a look at December individually, I can click on this 144,000. It's going to open up a new window that will have detail for all 144K plus checkouts here. So they're individually broken down here. And so if I wanted to see, you know, the patron branch who checked that title out, as well as who purchased the title, all that information's here as well. And again, if I wanted to kind of narrow this down, you can create an Excel worksheet here and then kind of utilize filtering, etc., to look at the data a little bit further. So anytime you see a hyperlink in Marketplace like this that's blue, it will take you to a different area. So this would take you to a title details page. And then if I back up here again, it's going to take me back to the month by month breakdown. So a couple other ways that you may want to run this report. Let's say you want to look at the full year, just one number for just my patrons checkouts. If I click on my branch, I can say how many checkouts overall were from Glen Ridge patrons for the full 2023 calendar year. Now, if I wanted to see, let's say by format, I'm looking at, you know, maybe ebook, audiobook ratios. If I click update, this isn't going to give me just ebook versus audio. It's going to give all of our formats. You can kind of deduce what's what here by, you know, this is our proprietary if somebody's listening to an audiobook in Libby. Likewise, reading an ebook in Libby. Kindle's always very popular. Magazine's a separate format. So if I wanted to, you know, search a little bit more granular, I can say all audiobooks here, update, and this is just going to give me a format by format breakdown of just audiobooks. So that would give me that total number. Now, if I ran this by month, just like we had before, this is going to give me audiobook checkouts month by month for the calendar year. So a lot of ways that you can run this report. And then again, if I want to just kind of start from scratch, I always have this option of reset filters. So definitely the most commonly used report. And then this nice little menu option up here would take you to a different report. So I'm just going to hop right into the current holds report. And the report options will pop up just like they did for the checkouts report with the last utilized option. So Tina's looking right now at not holds that are not suspended and that she can still purchase additional copies for. So I can, again, reset all these filters if I wanted to. There's different options here for this. Branch, again, is where the patron hold originated from. So if I wanted to see everyone's holds, I can get rid of this. If I click update, this is going to give me just current holds for Glen Ridge patrons. The current average waiting period isn't specific to just your Advantage library. This is just a consortium number that's always going to be listed there. However, these numbers are specific to your library, so those will change depending on the branch filter that you indicate here. So if I do have a branch filter and I'm in my Advantage account, these two numbers will always be the same. Now, if I remove the branch filter, I can still easily see how many of these holds are my Advantage holds here, but it's also going to provide me the full picture as far as the consortium holds go. So again, these are hyperlinks. So if I click on this, it's going to give me detail on those 56 holds. And then likewise, title details. And that's those same numbers will be represented here in the ownership details. So this gives you a nice bit of data as far as what's currently happening with your holds, as far as, and then as well as the consortium holds. A couple other pieces of data that I think people find quite helpful is the consortium ratio and Advantage ratio. So this is going to indicate how many total copies are available to your patrons versus the total number of holds on the title. So consortium ratio is taking this full 56 number and then dividing it by what I would guess to be 10 total copies in circulation, whereas there's 2 here for Glenridge. So that ratio would be much lower because all 10 of those would technically be available to fill those 2 holds. So those numbers can be used kind of looking at, potentially purchasing additional copies of popular titles, etc. You also get that ownership detail that we saw on the grid on the title details page represented here as well. So a lot of information as far as pricing goes. Branches number listed in the current holds report just represents how many different libraries have patrons on hold for that particular title. Definitely a popular report as well. Additional checkouts report. The other one that people tend to use quite frequently if you're kind of reviewing prior orders is the purchase orders report. So this will kind of give me a indication of what's been purchased in the time frame that I specify. So it's going to default to last 30 days. If I wanted to get a little bit more specific, I can say, what's been going on since the beginning of the year. If I leave this end date blank, it will give me everything up until today. So if I click to update here, I'm going to see all purchase orders that were bought by the shared account. So this billing accounts listed here, all of these have hyperlinks. So in both the order name and order ID, I can get into the details of the order. So if I'm ever kind of curious, I want to see what I had already purchased in the past, and I can go back through here. The report as a whole, if you notice, this will give me a total too. So if I want to see what I spent on purchase orders during a given time, this will give me that order total. If you do have titles that are currently in a pre-order state and they haven't been billed quite yet, that'll give you an estimated total for that pre-order amount here as well for the time period. So kind of a nice overall statement, if you will, for what you've purchased in the past. You can also search checkouts on a PO ID. So this order ID will have this 7-digit number at the end. So if I take a look at this particular purchase order back from January and I jump into the checkouts report, I can say, how did those titles do in this specific purchase order ID for the last 4 months. Now, this isn't going to give me specific data on just the copies in that PO ID, but it will give me data on the titles. So you can kind of see there's been almost 1,800 checkouts of the titles that were just in that one PO ID. So probably a lot of popular stuff, I'm guessing. There's a lot of ways to run checkouts report holds, and then the PO report again is kind of a nice way to get an overview of what you purchased in the past. So I'm gonna take a look at Insights dashboard again. And we're going to move to this patron interest tab, which is going to give me a couple of different pieces of information. So by default, if you haven't ran this at all, it will default to listen campaigns, I believe over the last month or so. This is going to give me an idea of what's been going on as far as the different lists in Libby, what's been checked out, what's been placed on hold from some of the more popular lists, if there are any campaigns going on. So if you have book clubs, those would show up there as well. And then this gives you a full picture of all those curated lists that are on the main page. Now, if I filter for notify me data and I have my Advantage account name here, I can take a look at a high-level overview of the titles that have been tagged the most with notify me tag. So if a patron is searching in Libby and none of their libraries, so that doesn't necessarily mean just Buckles. So if, personally, I have a team library here at OverDrive, and then I have my county library and city library system. So I have 3 different library cards. And so when I'm searching, it's kind of pulling all of the information from all 3 different catalogs of content from those libraries. Now, if none of my libraries own a specific title that I'm searching for, I have the option to place a notify me tag on that title, and Libby will then send me a push notification or just have the notification ready, depending on my preferences, that that title was purchased by one of my libraries. So because it's a multi-library app, that same tag is going to any of the libraries that I have as active in Libby. So these 3 tags on this title just indicate that there's been 3 Glenridge patrons that would like to read this title. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be purchased. That's pretty clearly indicated the patron when they place the tag. But it does kind of give you an idea of patron interest as far as what's not currently owned. And then the dashboard also has kind of some purchase impact and circulation impact graphs down here that would be specific to what you're filtering here. So if I wanted to, for instance, see full data for the whole consortium, then I'm seeing, some more popular things that, patrons are probably just excited about, and, they know that the library is probably going to purchase them, but they want to be notified right away when that does happen. So this feature kind of didn't replace, but it is really kind of meant to improve upon our old recommend a library feature that allowed patrons to recommend titles that weren't owned by a specific library. So this is for, again, the multi-library kind of facet. So this is meant to be a dashboard, more high-level overview of what's being tagged. If I look at this view details section here next to this, it will give me a little bit of data as far as the active and total tags. Now, what this means is if you have any here that are different, so total on 4. So this 100 boyfriends has 4 total tags, 2 are currently active. Now, if I click on that, this isn't currently owned by any library, but 2 out of the 4 have already been satisfied by another library that those patrons had within Libby. And they also could have removed the tags. So again, this is more high level because it doesn't really contain a lot of information about those specific titles. If I want to get a more granular view of reporting on notify me tags, I can go to purchasing tools from the shop menu. And I'm going to go through the other purchasing tools that we have that are available to kind of create carts, make purchasing more efficient on a advanced marketplace training in the future. But for now, this one is definitely kind of the most commonly used as a report as well. So you can see here, Tina already has something set up that will include any title that has 2 or more tags. And that is an active tag. It's not total, so that tags have to be active. This is going to generate a cart for her every other month, and it doesn't include pre-orders. So those titles, that are coming out soon, like the Patterson and stuff that we just saw, that people are really just kind of wanting to get notified on. She's not looking at that. She's really kind of concerned about more things that aren't currently owned that are already for sale. So if I click on this, it will take me into a more robust report view. So you can see there's a lot more data than that dashboard here. It's even telling me what the pricing is and then the lending model. This is brand new as of the last 6 months or so. We've added this to all of the purchasing tools. As far as I know at this point, you can also see what the cost per circ price is for the title. And again, that's something that Tina tends to go through training on at a different time. But this is really nice in case you wanted to kind of add that title in that lending model versus purchasing one of the traditional lending models. It'll also tell you if the potential is there that maybe this was weeded from the collection. So it was in the collection at one time. Now it's no longer listed as being owned. Maybe it's an expired metered access title, that sort of thing. So a lot more information again here. And these are hyperlinked, so I can click on them. I'm going to see that data there. So this was owned likely expired, but only had one checkout. So notify me tags are definitely kind of another way to look at shopping as far as, different things that you could be purchasing to satisfy patron demand. Anything else that you wanted me to cover on the notify me tags, Tina, darling?
No, I think that's good.
Cool.
Actually, no, that's not true. Can you go over the way that a patron can get notified about that? Just like what the options are, just real quick, and how they set that up?
Yeah.
Because we get
And
asked about that all the time. Everybody's like, what?
can you guys see my Libby screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I changed this on me, but I'm pretty sure it's still here. Yeah. Okay. So if I manage my notifications here, I can change basically any of the ways that Libby is going to notify me. So personally, I don't want it to come to email. I don't check my Yahoo email enough where I feel like that's going to be soon enough. So I do like the menu badge, and that'll kind of bring it up for me in the app while I'm on this menu. So I do have a couple of notifications here that's indicated by the little yellow dot actually. So I do have that option here to get emailed. I can or that menu badge, or I can ignore them altogether as well. And then you can specify an email address if you want here as well. Do recommend if you're going to enter an email address to get notifications that you utilize the Libby app in this manner from a browser. Just tends to stick a little bit easier now. And speaking of settings, that was going to be the kind of the next thing that I went through here. So changing your marketplace preferences or settings. So we do send quite a few emails, not gonna lie. You're not necessarily going to need to see every single one of them. So if you click on the settings menu, you can change your preferences as far as that goes. We do give some nice options up here. If you never want to see another language, that's probably the most commonly used search preset. I can edit what I'm seeing in here. That kind of does prevent you from ever making a mistake on purchasing a title in another language, because I will admit sometimes it is a little bit confusing to see something that would have some kind of English in the overview and then the title is actually in another language. So probably the most popular, but you can see there's a lot of options to narrow down what you're actually seeing in Marketplace overall. So all the email preferences can be adjusted here as well. So if I click edit, I'm going to have the opportunity to change any of these that I want. So they're all, yes, I can yes to all, no to all for both the shared collection and then my Advantage account. So separate emails as far as different carts being created, when things are weeded, things of that nature. So a lot of ways to change this. Language, search presets, preferences overview. So there's a lot of different options that I have here as far as tailoring the marketplace experience. The settings menu, as you can see, will also give you your CPC budget, pre-order total. If you have any content credit on file, this, in my experience, has always been very accurate. If you're ever curious about what your billing account is, that's listed up here as well. Contact information, and if I wanted to sign off from Marketplace, that's up here as well. Last couple of things, the support tab is got a kind of a wealth of information. My information's up here up top, and then your team, I mentioned Bart earlier, he's going to be your go-to guy if you're changing mark records, if you're changing an ILS vendor, if you have a server change, upgrade, anything more on the technical side of things. He can definitely kind of help you out or point you in the right direction. Same thing with APIs. I think I mentioned mark records. Alicia, like Tina mentioned at the start of this call, she's going to be doing a curation training. She's your digital content librarian. She's got a ton of experience here in the Northeast Ohio area out in Akron. So definitely a great resource, especially for YA content. I've noticed she's really been extra helpful with. lately. You do have a couple of different ticket type options in terms of getting in touch with our support staff. So most commonly used, if you have like a patron issue, that you're not able to support in terms of a Libby question. Maybe they're having trouble with a hold or their account. It's not something that you're able to help with. You can always point them towards the in-app help. They're able to communicate directly with our support staff right through Libby. If they're not comfortable doing that, you can take their barcode, title information, etc., and enter a technical support ticket in here, and then our support staff can still help that way. If you need copy an invoice, billing account information change, statements, content credit moved, things like that, you can enter a support ticket here for our accounting group. Authentication is going to be your go-to if you have like things like that server change, ILS vendor change, stuff like that. BART is always able to help and kind of monitor tickets, but it's ultimately going to be that team that helps with those sorts of issues or setup changes. Resource Center is always updated. It's a great place for a variety of different things. So if I click here, this is a standalone site as well. Resources.overdrive.com can be accessed without signing in and out of Marketplace. So this is always something that's available to you no matter where you're at in the library. You don't necessarily have to be on your personal computer or at home even. So the library menu will give you kind of the main areas of what's available here. Kind of mentioned the training coming up for getting started with Libby in a couple of weeks. Things like that are going to be listed on the training section as far as upcoming webinars go. So we do have a town hall happening right now as well for Canopy. All of these things will eventually make their way to the on-demand webinar page as well. So they all do get recorded like this is being, and then posted here for kind of future use. So really nice area as far as training goes there. And then if I wanted to look at, get to it right here, the how-to resources. So, shop and purchase lending models, some of these kind of basic things that we've been going over today are covered in these trainings. As you can see, there's anything and everything that you could ever need to do in Marketplace covered here. These are all done by our training team. They're recorded videos with accompanying kind of slide deck PDFs. So you can always access that sort of thing here. If you want to bone up on your kind of patron facing Libby knowledge, lots of resources here, again, done by our training team. Same thing with Canopy. And then those help links as far as the patron facing help sites are available here. Also, Marketplace help is just kind of a general repository for frequently asked questions as far as Marketplace goes. You can always check with me too if something doesn't look right or confused, want to just give general feedback. Happy to hear that kind of stuff. The other thing that you can get on the Resource Center is marketing materials, and that's physical, print, digital, variety of things. So if I want to request something, this link on the left-hand side of the main page will provide you with some physical marketing materials mailed to you, and that goes for Libby and Canopy now. So that's pretty new combination of both there. And then you have a lot of print-ready kits, marketing templates, digital graphics, anything that you want for both Libby and Canopy are all on this section as well. And then lastly, Alicia's team maintains this collection development section, which is kind of a repository for all of those must-have lists and topical genre seasonal lists that you'll see in Marketplace. So, for instance, if I want to see seasonal holiday, this is probably going to be a lot of, they've organized this recently. So if I want to say spring right now, a lot of kind of timely lists for those months. And then you can kind of see the rest of the year represented there. Really well done stuff and kind of whatever you kind of like to focus on. So if, I want to shop from these, this will take me right into Marketplace if I'm signed in as well. So kind of nice in that regard too. Resource Center, I think that was the last thing on my list. Was there anything else that you guys wanted me to cover, or is there questions at all?
Nick, can you show me how to get back to the request the marketing materials?
Yep, absolutely. So on the Resource Center, on the library menu, right on the
Mm-hmm.
main page of marketing and outreach, there is a link that will say public library requests.
Okay, hold on. I'm seeing a different screen. Ah, okay, there we go. Thank you.
I'm gonna pop that in the chat too, just in case anybody wants to take advantage of it. Any other questions?
It doesn't look like it. Everybody can put their question in the chat if you would like. And then I think, Darlene, are you there? Darlene had some reminders and housekeeping for us.
I am here. If I
Yay!
wasn't doing reminders and housekeeping, I don't know what I would do. So we'll give it, I guess, a couple minutes in case anybody does have any questions. So I will do my reminders and housekeeping just to piggyback off on what Tina Marie and Nick said about the upcoming training. Nick will be conducting this same training again on May 7th. On May 17th, Tina Marie will be doing the cost per circ training that we referenced. And also on June 5th is the curation training with Alicia from OverDrive. So the emails for the marketplace training and the cost per circ have been sent. The curation email with the details and sign up will be coming out shortly. I would like to thank Nick for another great class with lots of information. We appreciate that. And thank you to Tina Marie for helping to arrange this and putting in her key questions when we needed clarification. I'd like to thank everyone here for taking time out of your day to attend. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. I will be sending an evaluation form to everyone, asking for your feedback about today's session, as well as what future training you would like to see in anything with e-content. We will be sharing the link to the recording afterwards. And I think that's it for my portion.
There's just one question that I answered real quick. Happy to hang out if there's other questions.
Okay, awesome.
Did you want to, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but do you want to give us a brief what's coming in the future for OverDrive?
Sure. Yeah, let me share my screen again real quick. And I can kind of give you guys some examples.
Because there's newsflash, there's a couple of things coming that I think that everybody will be excited about. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you guys seeing the support tab in Marketplace again?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we are definitely kind of on the final stretch of development for kind of an overhaul of Marketplace. It's been quite some time. I know I've been with OverDrive for I think almost 7 years now, and it's maintained, its look and feel pretty consistently. There's definitely been a lot of great updates, especially those purchasing tools. But I think, one thing that people have always kind of asked for is more of a consistent experience with all the lending models. So we're calling that the One Shop initiative. So you can see on the shop tab, it is kind of separated with lending models. So the main two that people tend to purchase are One Copy, One User, and Metered Access. Those were the first two that publishers introduced way back in the day when ebooks started being lended by public libraries. But these two are definitely becoming more and more popular and desirable by libraries. So I think it's a perfect example of the question that just got asked in the chat. The desire to see all the options in one place. So moving forward, these three areas will be combined into kind of one shop, so to speak, where you'll be able to see if there's a cost per circ price for a popular title that you're considering purchasing in another lending model. Maybe you want to add it in both lending models at the same time, rather than kind of jumping back and forth between browser tabs, which is currently kind of unfortunately the experience with cost per circ, as you can attest.
So many tabs.
Yep. So that, you know, the CPC price and the patron interest manager was a first step towards integrating that data into, you know, different areas. So it is now in the holds manager and metered access manager tools as well. You know, the first thing that they're integrating is CPC price followed by sim use. So both really good things. I think, you know, that's coming as far as one shop goes. You will be able to also add individual title CPC budgets in a future update that's sooner than the full one shop. So that what that means is basically you be able to devote a specific budget to just one title. So really nice for programming, book clubs, that sort of thing. Right now you do have to kind of break the budgets out by just format. So ebook versus audio. There will be some new campaign tools in Marketplace too. So speaking of book clubs programming, if you're looking to highlight a specific title on your Advantage account for a period of time, and you're going to devote some CPC budget for it, but you want to promote that title using like a nice banner, just like we have for, you know, the things like the Big Library Read, Together We Read campaigns. That'll be available in the marketing the new marketing kind of hub section of Marketplace, where it'll be more self-service, where you can actually add those types of things for those patron-facing campaigns and live it yourselves, right? In Marketplace, whereas now does have to kind of be coordinated by my team when we do that. So definitely some good stuff happening in the future. I agree.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Any
I
other
think
questions? No.
it doesn't look like it. So I think with that, we're going to say thank you so much to Nick, and thank you to Darlene for helping us coordinate and getting all the messages out. Darlene, did you have anything else you wanted to remind everybody else before we go?
I think we're good. I don't have anything other than thanking everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Thanks, Nick.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye, everyone.